And as always, you can get interactive with us via our social media handles. We are live on X Spaces, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on myjoyonline.com. Let's settle for the details now. The minority in Parliament say they have escalated their concerns regarding the decision by the Speaker of Parliament, Bagbin, to suspend 3 of its members to the National Party and will fight to the end. Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodomprep, one of his deputies, Jerry Ahmed Shaibu and Hassan Tampoli, have been suspended for 2 weeks for their role in a disorderly conduct witnessed at the appointment committee on Thursday. Now, addressing a news conference in Parliament, Minority Leader Alexander Kwame Afenyomarkin said the NPP takes a strong exception to the Speaker's decision and will fight it.
To say this with emphasis, this mighty few, this happy few, will not allow itself to be intimidated. We will never surrender to any intimidation. All the issues that are being thrown at us are aimed at cowing us. None of it will work. For the record, this is the first time in the history of our Fourth Republic that a minority in Parliament is allowing a government to form, appoint its ministers in record time. For emphasis, we've been most cooperative with the NDC majority, but they are bullies. They bully, they intimidate, and if you don't stand strong, they will bully you and will never be bullied. We've supported them. Even some of the nominations come to Parliament within 24, 48 hours, we allow vetting to take place. On that Thursday incident, we had an agreement. My deputy leader, who represented the caucus interest at the pre-sitting meeting, agreed with the chair of the committee to vet only 3 for the day, and that was the understanding. When we're done with the 3, they asked for 1 more. It changed to 4. When we're done with the 4, they asked for 1 more. As the final thing, we had the 5th person. We vetted them in record time. We were done, only to see that they had paraded 6 more nominees on the corridors of the committee building to be vetted. And this was 10 p.m. Apart from that, the NDC has resorted to ferrying its foot soldiers to come and intimidate us. The insults, the bullying, all the insinuations, the attack. Sometimes we'll be walking and they will be pushing at the physical assault. We have brought this to the attention of Parliament Police. We are also going to beef up our security. The attacks are becoming 1 too many. We don't feel safe. All these gave rise to our posture on that night. We are law-abiding. NPP is known for its gentlemanliness. We don't go physical, but we had to protest. Protest is part of democracy. It's our right, far right. We protested. Mr. Speaker, and all those who are criticizing our conduct of Thursday night should critically watch the tape, the videos. We didn't set out to destroy public property. We didn't set out to disrupt. We protested. The NDC shut the door of engagement on us. They said they were a so-called supermajority. So they have majority. Whether we like it or not, they were going to vet. Suffice to state that in all the approvals so far, it's been done because we supported them. They claim not that they claim, it's a fact. They have over 180 seats, but they haven't been able to even marshal 110 since we started sitting. The maximum they've had, and each day we count their numbers. Each day, the maximum they've gotten is 104. And you don't use 104 to take a decision. you need a minimum of 138. It has always taken our side, always present, to support them. So we have not criticized the John Mahama administration at all. We've not opposed them. In all of this, it's been consensus upon consensus. It was only Ama Kofi Bue's situation that we nearly took a secret ballot on him. Even so, he graciously beat a retreat by apologizing for his conduct, his actions against President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So we've been supportive, and they know. Let me call on the majority leader, who I so much respect, who has demonstrated a top-notch diplomatic posture, to tame the wild dogs who are obstructing government business. There are some elements in the NDC in Parliament who are overly aggressive, who believe that they might have their pound of flesh. They describe themselves as the avant-garde of government business. And all others who are moving to the extreme to cool down and engage. They sometimes create the impression that they are more powerful than the chairman. For those who have been watching proceedings, anytime the chairman allows proceedings to go on smoothly, they come in to disrupt, intimidating the chairman on their own side and insulting him. Sometimes I hear they come and tell the chairman to stop me from vetting. Now let's deal with the issue of my questions. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, sometimes we don't check the records. I am inviting members of the public. Today, because of ICT, everything is on the internet. People should go and check 1997, the J.H. Mensah vetting, minority leader. They should go to Bagbin, and there I want to stay there for a while. Honorable Bagbin, MP for Nadole Kalio, and minority leader, as he then was, grilled Kufuor's nominees for hours. Not a single nominee was spared. In my case, I've only been doing just a few of them. It's not every vetting that I participate. Sometimes I sit in my office and watch. Some of the people, we don't even ask them any questions. The few that we are taking them on, they cannot take it. They should go and check the records of their own minority leader, 2001 and 2005. They should go and watch it. The impatient, intolerant NDC. They will never tolerate the things they do to people. They can't even stand a minute of that dose. And then they should also go and check the vetting of Harun Idrisu and Muntaka. These were two strong men who tackled our nominees. They should go and watch. They spent hours. Harun Idrisu spent hours on our nominees. Muntaka had unlimited questions. Muntaka was a deputy ranking. In my case, Mama Pat, my deputy, who is a deputy ranking, is given only 3 questions. The maximum she goes is 5. I invite the NDC aggressors, the intolerant foot soldiers, the intolerant extremists of the NDC who are attacking me and attacking our caucus, to go and check Muntaka Mubarak, who was even a deputy ranking. The unlimited number of questions that he had, showing videos and all. Their own darling boy Ablakwa, the unlimited opportunity he had, scrutinizing CVs. Today, when his CV is being scrutinized, he says he's a tenant. 15,000 Ghana cedis is all he did. No. Please, colleagues, wait. 15,000 cedis is what he disclosed as his regular income. And he said to the whole public that all he earns is what he gets from Parliament, 15,000 Ghana cedis. He doesn't do any other work. Yet he's able to afford airport hills for 8 years. Every month he pays. I leave it to the jury out there. To conclude, I want to zero in on the clerk to the committee. Some people are asking us why our pronouncement on the clerk to the committee. The clerk to the committee is a partisan clerk. She is not a neutral professional clerk. She's caused us a lot of discomfort. We've tolerated, accommodated her. At this point, it's getting out of hand. She advertises at midnight. As a minority leader, I am to know those to be vetted the next day ahead of time. He doesn't share that with us. A lot of times I have to manage the pain, the frustration of my members and take responsibility. Committee reports. So far, I've accommodated this. All the reports we've been debating, not a single one of them was brought to me to have a look. The practice has always been that because it is majority and minority, yes, some people are saying, wow, because we accommodate, we are very tolerant. So we don't talk about some of these things. But today, for the public to appreciate why we had to go that way, I'm explaining. The essence of the report is for us to have all our input in. This lady, who with so much respect, will do none of that. But it's the same person who was the clerk when we were in government, who insisted on getting the minorities' input. What has changed? Okoto de Sanabuje. Okoto de Sanabuje, NPP dia. We will not allow ourselves to be taken for granted. A clerk to committee must be professional, must be neutral. She cannot be an armchair committee clerk and claim that she's been sending people. When she knows that whenever a report is ready, she must personally hand it over to the majority leader and the minority leader. Look at it. The practice has always been that committee report must be shared by the ranking and the chair so that we all make our input. She doesn't do any of that. We've reported it to the clerk, and we hope that the clerk, after engagement, will come back to us. For now, we don't want the clerk on the appointment committee again. We, the minority, are calling on her, on the clerk to parliament, to remove her from the appointment committee unless she's ready to turn a new leaf, to be a professional and engage us. To make matters worse, she's taken to insinuating against us on social media, particularly using her WhatsApp status. We've seen all of that. We printed it. If she, as a clerk, wants to be an NDC activist, we expect her to resign and fully participate in the NDC politics, and not to pretend that she's a parliamentary service staff and work against us. I've been a majority leader before. I've been a leader of government business before. I know what she took us through. My deputy is here. When we received the nomination of the judges and we had to vet them, deputy leader, who was then the acting chair, got the report ready and signed it. This woman says she will never sign unless and until Dr. Atuforsen has given her the go-ahead. That is what happened. She said she was waiting for the input of Dr. Forsen. I called her severally to my office. She would gently, courteously tell me, "No, leader, try and talk to Dr. Atuforsen before." And Atu was out of the country. For her to even advertise for the Supreme Court nominees to be vetted, she needed the consent of the minority. What has changed? What has changed? Indeed, we are going through difficult moments, but we will never be intimidated. A luta continua. A luta continua.
Right, so that's the minority leader, Alexander Afenyomarken, together with his lieutenants at the news conference earlier today. Now, remember also that the Speaker has referred this matter to a committee to investigate and report to the plenary. That committee also had a news conference this morning. We'll bring that to you shortly and then get to understand what really is going on. And the NPP has a statement on this matter. Let me run you through and then bring in the Deputy General Secretary for a quick reaction. And they say that they've learnt with scorn that the Right Honourable Speaker on Friday, 31st January 2025, unilaterally suspended 3 of its members of parliament. Now, the party sees this as selective and autocratic posture of the Speaker. They describe it as very dangerous, with all these actions packaged to cow the minority into submissions, consequently weakening its potential to hold the government accountable. Now, the party calls on all, especially its members of parliament, to be assured of the party's unflinching support at all material times and fully supports the press conference of the minority caucus today. Now, in this spirit, the party wishes to say that it does not accept the decision of the Speaker to suspend its members, which, is clear disregard for the Constitution of the Republic, as well as the rules of natural justice. The party hereby reiterates its position that it stands with the 88 gallant members of Parliament. And the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, has in a memo also demanded certain action from the Speaker of Parliament, and my parliamentary correspondent, Koko Asante, is in the studio to walk us through. But before we do that, let me quickly bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Haruna Mohammed. Haruna, you're welcome to the pulse here on Joy News. Right, so Haruna, good afternoon. If you can hear me, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, my brother.
Right, so your statement makes reference to selective application of the law or selective justice. Now, in this case, as far as I am aware, there's one MPP, there's 3 MPP MPs and 1 NDC MP. And this NDC MP is actually the chief whip of the side. You still went ahead to describe the action of the Speaker as selective. How do you reconcile this?
Thank you. First, foremost, I would say good afternoon to you and your viewers and the Minority Leader of Ghana's Parliament, Honorable Alexander Afenyomarkin. Before I proceed, I would like to borrow the words of the current Interior Minister that I quote, in fact, Honorable Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament, is the tyrant, unquote. These were words that were quoted by the current Interior Minister. At the time, all of us were still wondering why Mr. Speaker will be behaving in such a manner. Today, it has been confirmed that Mr. Speaker would not pay due diligence to standing orders and the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. When we say selective, we are not necessarily meaning that it is selected only MPP people. When you say selected and you view the Constitution and the rules of natural justice, the MPP members, per the rules in the Constitution and the standing orders of Parliament, they should have been a special committee or referred to the Privileges Committee. And the report of this particular, any of these committees would have come to the plenary for such a decision to be reached. And I believe that you have heard several other interviews, of which you personally do as a media house, that the former majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, and the current minority leader and other legal persons have clearly stated that the Speaker has no authority in the standing order or in the Constitution to suspend any member of Parliament. It is not within the powers of the Speaker of Parliament. You remember, before even he became the Speaker for the 9th Parliament, he was taking decisions whilst he was a Speaker in the 8th Parliament of how he is going to prevent people to be sworn in, when in fact he doesn't have the power. I believe that Mr. Speaker should come back and look at himself very well and affect himself to the mind that this country has rules. The standing orders must work. He should stop that autocratic rule and make sure that the rules of natural justice apply in this particular case.
But Haruna, wouldn't you be more potent if you were to condemn the incident that took place in Parliament and then call on Parliament to take action against the MPs that were seen on TV misconducting themselves?
You see, what occasioned what what happened in Parliament. You ask yourself.
But that doesn't give them the right to misbehave the way they did.
But you look at what happened. You look at what happened in Parliament. Our members protested. You get the point? And there is the right to protest in the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. They protested to an uninformed procedural differences as to how the vetting should be done and the number of people that is going to be done. But they were confronted with a violent confrontation, which is not in the Constitution. So there is difference between protest, which is constitutional right, and there is difference between confrontation. The Constitution does not provide for confrontation. The majority confronted them violently. And the Constitution, again, gives you the right to defend to any violent confrontation. And that is why our members stood on their feet. And I come out clearly on behalf of the party to thank them for defending themselves, because they could have been killed. They could have done anything to them in that particular house. And we need the 88 members. We need them.
But three against one will suggest that the ones in the majority were the ones who were trying to attack the one in the minority.
Yeah, the majority went to attack.
In this case, the NPP 3 and NDC 1.
Honorable Tampuli. Tampuli had to defend himself. He had to defend himself. They had to use the tables to cover themselves up. Because they have to. Because the Constitution says you should defend yourself. They were confronted violently, which the Constitution does not give violent confrontation. The Constitution talks about protest, and they protested.
The speaker.
If you watch the videos, you see it was a protest.
Okay,
but they went on a violent confrontation.
Great.
And we believe that our members, we need them safe. We need them intact. And I congratulate them for defending themselves on that particular stage. Because going out there, you see the tax of the NDC, hoodlums of the NDC, who they have brought to the President of Parliament to disturb and attack our members. So if they don't stand up and defend themselves, it is going to be something else. And if this thing continues and the tax of the NDC goes to Parliament always, we have no alternative than to call our boys to also go to Parliament.
Right. So right, and that is what I want to come in now. Then I also ask you about what you make of the action taken by the Speaker, that there should be surcharge, there should be a police report, even though the committee to investigate whether they are culpable or not is yet to start at work. So you say that you don't accept the decision taken by the Speaker. Is it your order that tomorrow when the House sits, the 3 MPs on your side should take their seats on the floor?
What he did was unconstitutional. It was not in order of any of the standing orders. And again, when he gave the orders and the plenary, you needed no any other instruction to relook at the orders of the Speaker. So the committee proceeded to disobey the order of the Speaker. So once they disobeyed the order of the Speaker, which though was illegal, the minority will take a cue, and you will hear from us from tomorrow going.
So now there's no clear directive that they should be in the House tomorrow, especially the 3 MPs.
The Speaker's order does not stand in law.
Meaning what? They should report they should report to work tomorrow.
I am saying that the Speaker's directive was defective of the law, both standing orders and the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And
so, Anodom Prayer, Al-Hassan Tampuli and Jerry should report to Parliament tomorrow and take their seats as representatives of their people.
Once something is done unconstitutionally and they want to attempt to touch any of our members, touch one, touch all.
All right. Let's leave it here. Haruna Mohammed is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Of the NPP, and they have a statement out backing the position taken by the minority caucus in the House. And then we will stay a little longer on this matter because this story has a lot of angles. The other angle is the fact that there's a formal memo written by the minority leader, Alexander Afenyamarkin, to the Speaker, and he's demanding specific things. Parliamentary correspondent Koko Asante is right here in the studio with me, and he's going to walk us through the memo. Koko, welcome.
Elton, good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too, Oku.
Yeah.
You've got an appearance to make soon.
Well, yes, like the committee is looking at some of the, and as you can see there in the show, we're standing right at the top of while all this was happening. So they are looking forward to hearing from us. We will discuss that modality as a media house and then take the decision going forward. But like you said at the top, there is a 5-page memo, strongly worded memo from Alexander Afenyo-Markin to the Speaker of Parliament, asking him to do a lot of things. Chief among that, to rescind the decision to suspend the 3 members of Parliament, particularly from their side. Of course, the memo covers all of them and say that the decision to suspend the 4 members of Parliament is unconstitutional and is not in line with the standing orders of the House, for which reason that must be stood down. And he offers the grounds. He starts by saying that the procedure adopted by the Speaker violates the standing orders and the disciplinary procedure that is applied thereof. It says that the standing orders of Parliament provides clearly and unambiguously the procedures for disciplinary members, and he goes on to cite the orders. He says, Mr. Speaker, it is my respectful view that these procedural safeguards were disregarded. Instead of following due process, you exercise unilateral authority to suspend members, a course of action that is inconsistent with established fundamental parliamentary practice. Alexander Afenyo-Markin goes ahead to say that the decision of the Speaker violates the Constitution in Articles 19 and 23, that right to fair hearing. He quotes, he says, Right Honorable Speaker, the right to fair hearing is an entrenched constitutional principle and Article 19 of the Constitution. This right extends to disciplinary actions within Parliament, as disciplinary measures can significantly impact an MP's duties and representation of his constituents. And under Article 23, they talk about what it says. They also go ahead to cite the celebrated case of Awuniverse, West African Examination Council, that talks about hearing. And then go ahead and say that for the avoidance of doubt, the affected MPs, Frank Anodompre, Jerry Ahmed Shaib, and Alassane Tampoli, were not granted the due process required by law, thereby raising serious questions about the procedural fairness adopted by the Speaker. They go ahead then to say that the committee sitting does not constitute a parliamentary sitting, for which reason the Speaker should be exercising his power of discipline, and that if the Speaker contends that this was contempt in the face of Parliament, the decision ought to have been taken by the chairman of the appointment committee, in whose face these disturbances happened, and is not to be extended to the Parliament of Ghana. They go on to say that, as you may well be aware, committee sittings are official parliamentary sittings, and therefore the rules of the House, except as otherwise stated, apply to all such formal meetings. They say that it reinforces their point that the power to address such contempt or disorderly conduct at a committee sitting rests solely with the presiding officer of that committee at the time of the incident. That it is well within the authority of the chairman of the committee to go ahead to do that. And then they go ahead to give 4 issues they are seeking, 4 reliefs.
Right.
1, they want the Speaker to suspend the suspension of the 4 MPs. That decision must be reversed immediately, as they say it lacks the required procedural and legal foundation. And 2, the ad hoc committee that has been set up to be chaired by Emmanuel Kusi-Bejura with 6 other members, they say that committee must be dissolved immediately, and that the Committee on Privileges and Immunities be urgently constituted in accordance with standing orders. And then finally, Parliament formally reaffirms its commitment to procedural fairness to avoid setting a precedent that undermines due process. And then ultimately, Alexander Afenyo-Markin says he's looking forward to seeing the Speaker. In the press conference, he talks about the efforts over the weekend to speak to the Speaker. He wasn't able to get him. He expects that as early as tomorrow, the Speaker will open his doors to him as the leader of the minority caucus, to speak to him, to ventilate the concerns his caucus have as regards to the decision to suspend these MPs. Elton.
So there's a memo to the Speaker of Parliament from the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. The concerns about whether or not the Speaker has already taken action against the 4 MPs has been something that is yet to go away. Especially since the Speaker has now formed a committee and asked the committee to investigate what happened. Yes, some action has been taken against them.
Exactly, and bring to the fore specific MPs who may be liable for what happened, and then having gone ahead of the committee to actually decide to suspend these MPs for their role in the violence. And so the argument that has been made by not just the minority, but so many members of society is that it appears the Speaker is finding these MPs guilty even before the committee will start its work. And the committee will start its work officially by holding public hearings on Wednesday, Elton.
I don't know whether you've had a chance to speak to Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. I mean, there's this social media post making run about some assault.
Yes.
He may have,
suffered
on that day.
Yeah. I have not been able to. In fact, we've been trying to get him since this matter came up to hear from him. And this comment is from the MP for Akimsu, the former Deputy Health Minister, who is speaking to another media house and saying that an MP actually went under the tables and held Honorable Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo's, I don't know if I can use those words on TV. He held him by his balls, literally, and he screamed. I didn't catch that. From where I was standing, I didn't catch exactly that. But we've been trying to dig and trying to get some answers on that. Roxanne has been laying low on this particular matter because this concerns the Speaker, a member of their party. And so the NDC has taken a stance that if they have any concerns with the Speaker so far, they want to deal with it using back channels and not come out officially to do so. And so as of now, we have not yet gotten confirmation from the Member of Parliament if that happened. And if that happened, what is he doing about it? Did he notice the Member of Parliament that might have done that to him? Is he going to go ahead and press charges? Has he formally informed the police about this? Those are all details we are trying to get, and Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo has not been forthcoming so far.
The good news, however, is that all these matters will come to the fore when the committee has been set up by the Speaker to investigate that disturbances, begin its work this week. There was more to it today?
Yes, the Ad-hoc committee that has been set up by the Speaker of Parliament, chaired by Emmanuel Kwesi-Bedzra, actually raises some issues. And they say that they've started their work today. What they're going to do is they're going to review all the tapes from that particular day. And then on Wednesday, they're going to hold public hearings. They're going to invite members of Parliament, journalists, and other members of the public who might have witnessed what happened. And then whatever the quality of information they have for them, they'll bring it. Let's listen to Emmanuel Kwesi-Bedzra as he addressed the news conference earlier today.
You are all aware that on Friday, the 30th of January 2025, the Right Honourable Speaker constituted this committee to look into the unfortunate incident that occurred on Thursday, 30th January, in the morning of Friday, 31st January, at the vetting committee sitting. Ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that the Right Honourable Speaker gave this committee a very short period of time, only 10 days, to submit its report on the unfortunate incident. Considering the urgency with which we are to work and present our report, we have decided to outline the modalities and rules of engagement relative to the committee's work. Firstly, and by way of emphasis of our job, we are to conduct a full-scale investigation into the event of Thursday, 30th January, and the morning of 31st January. 2, identify all members involved in the disorder and submit a report with findings and recommendations. To do this, the committee wishes to announce that we have decided to hold a public hearing of all the issues starting from Wednesday here in Parliament House at 10 a.m. prompt. We shall expect members of Parliament, the media, the guests who were present at the vetting room, as well as members of the general public, to voluntarily appear to assist the committee with the relevant information on the incident. the committee has created a digital platform, a WhatsApp platform, where we shall receive multimedia evidence, including videos, audios, and tests to facilitate a speedy execution of the committee's tasks. This, I will give the number, and for those who are interested in sending us evidence either by video or any evidence that they have, we'll send it to the clerk, to the committee on 0244 926 911. The number again I want to repeat. Anyone, either from a media house or individuals who were there, who want to send us videos, audios, or any tests on the incident, please send it to the clerk of this committee on 0244 926 911. The committee has decided that we will solicit the service of a forensic expert from the Ghana Police Service to assist with the authentication and analysis and validation of any multimedia evidence that we receive from the witness. Starting from this morning or this afternoon, we will start viewing some of the video evidences that Parliament has. The committee will also provide opportunity for in-camera, in-case hearing for a person who may wish to utilize such an avenue to provide useful evidence to assist the committee. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our hope that all citizens will stand with Parliament of Ghana in this trying moment to assist in rebuilding our enviable democratic attributes as we undertake to execute this task. In conclusion, the committee would like to place on record that it is not part of its job to target or witch hunt anyone. And I want to repeat it. We are not here to witch hunt any of our colleagues or members of Parliament. This work is to look for evidence of any member of Parliament who may have flouted the rules of engagement in this House. Hence, we are appealing to all and sundry to volunteer information that will help bring a lasting peace and collaborative spirit into the work of not only the appointment committee, but ultimately to the entire House of Parliament. I thank you very much for your attention and good afternoon.
Right, so Emmanuel Bejwa's job is to investigate this and report to the Speaker of Parliament. Kwaku is here. He's not the only member on the committee.
Yes, it's a 7-member committee, 5 from the NDC, 2 from the NPP, and Emmanuel Bejwa, like you just saw him there chairing that committee. The 2 members from the NPP side are Kwame Anyimedu-Entry and former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Honorable Abena Osei Asare. They make out the members from the NPP side on this committee. The other 4 who join Emmanuel Bejwa from the majority on this committee are Madame Gisela Akushikatete Agbotui, and then Honorable Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, Vincent Opon Asamoah, and Honorable Bidi and Wang Tanzuma Ziden. They are the 4 others who joined Emmanuel Bejwa to be 5 on the NDC side and then 2 on the APP side. Also.
So Wednesday is the day.
Wednesday the date. They are going to
There's going to be a public hearing.
Public hearing on Wednesday. They are going to hear from everyone that might have witnessed something that may have any evidence to give to them. They have 10 days to submit their report to the Speaker.
Thank you so much. Kwaku Asante is our parliamentary correspondent. Let's stay a little longer in Parliament because a network of civil society organizations, Ghana Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, they've commended the Right Honourable Speaker Alban Sumana Kensford Bagbin for a swift response to the misconduct that occurred during the vetting of some ministers of state nominated by the President on Thursday, January 30, 2025, In a statement issued today, the group described the Speaker's action as a crucial step in preserving the dignity and integrity of Parliament. Now, let me bring in you the details of that statement that they issued a while ago in response to the disturbing events of last Thursday. Right, so the statement will come, but let me bring in Sami Oben. He is the Executive Director of the Parliamentary Network. Sami, so that's the statement from the civil society groups, backing the Speaker's decision regarding the action that is taken against the MPs, and that is what is rolling on your screens right now. Let's do some analysis on this matter. And joining us via Zoom is Sami Oben. He is Executive Director of the Parliamentary Network of Africa. Sami, good afternoon and welcome. Well, Sami,
good afternoon, Elton. Thanks for having me.
Yes, great to have you here on the poll. So, this matter is still dominating discussions in Ghana and indeed around the world. A while ago, we played the news conference organized by the Speaker's Committee that is tasked with the responsibility of investigating the circumstances surrounding the misconduct, if you like, and then make recommendations to the Speaker for the necessary action to be taken. Now, in his opening remarks, he said he and the other members of the committee, they've been tasked to what? To identify all members involved. Now, the Speaker has already taken action, and that has led to the suspension of 4 members of Parliament. Does this, terms of reference, identify all members involved, does this probably suggest that there may be more? And if there are more, why take action against 4 when you don't know that other people are involved?
Well, Elton, we saw the videos. We watched these on live television. Your media house, as well as many media houses, showed it. And so it was very clear that there may be other members of Parliament involved. Our statement as civil society organizations, 16 civil society organizations, and you could clearly see the organizations involved, really is not intending to wade into the conversation around constitutionality and the standing orders, because eventually there are remedial measures around how this can be dealt with. And we expect that parliamentarians, members on either side will go along those routes, to deal with the matter. But it's important to emphasize that for an institution of Parliament, which is your Parliament, my Parliament, our Parliament, which has over the last 4 so years deteriorated by way of public reputation for Parliament, the reputation in the eyes of the public, it was important that if for the very first time, the things that we've been condemning, and yet there's not been any action on them since January 7th, the 9th of January 6th to January 7th, 2021. And we have this time around swift actions taken. And by the way, the suspension of the 4 MPs was not the only decision that was communicated. There are some others. Many of them have not been contested at all. It was important to be able to give thumbs up to Mr. Speaker and Parliament to say, this is what we've been expecting all these years when these things have been going on. We expect that you will follow through with them. Due process will be undertaken in the course of these efforts, and that we as civil society organizations will be watching to see that the other actions that needs to be taken are taken right. So we'll be watching the 7-member Bejra-led committee. We'll be watching on the clerk to see whether he has reported the case to the police. We'll be watching on what the police does eventually. We'll be watching on all of the other subsequent declarations that were made, including what happens to these 4 MPs, including how the MPs involved get to pay for the damages that have been caused, so that it is not taken from the taxpayers, it's not taken from the taxpayer.
Right. There are concerns about the action taken by the Speaker. And for some people, it doesn't look like the Speaker. The Speaker's sincerity is being questioned. There are people also reading double standards in this matter. Remember the events that led to his election as Speaker and the issues around it. When the Speaker was addressing, a parliamentary symposium to mark 30 years of parliamentary democracy in the Northern region, if I'm right. He was asked why Parliament has yet to institute probe into events that led to his election as Speaker. And his response to that person was that he couldn't set up a committee made up of MPs to investigate themselves. And today, similar thing happened last week. A committee is in place. Some MPs have already been suspended. A committee is in place to investigate and recommend action to the Speaker. Is he not displaying double standards here? Or is it because in the first instance he was a beneficiary of that disturbance, so that's how come he will not probe into that matter?
Ultimately, for us as civil society organizations, our interest is the terrible public spectacle that's consistently shown to us by members of Parliament on our TVs that has a potential of affecting how our children, our colleagues, our peers, and people of Ghana start to think around how to resolve matters. We've seen this in January of 2021. We saw how the entire 2021 on different occasions saw similar instances. And we thought that Parliament did close to nothing about the subject matter. We would have been offended if Parliament, in a new Parliament, did nothing about this particular instance, which then the president or the previous example would have shown that we're going to have a full year of such disturbances again with Parliament not doing anything. So for us, we are more interested in the pain that has been caused the people of Ghana to see our members of Parliament behave in this particular manner, while we look forward to how they can use the procedures and processes, the legal routes available to them as members of Parliament to deal with whatever they consider as unlawful in the process that has been initiated.
Finally, before I let you go, Alexander Fenyamake, in a memo to the Speaker, is demanding some 4 things be done. First is the suspension of the 4 MPs to be reversed immediately, as it lacks the required procedural and legal foundation. The Ad-hoc committee considered under Order 5 be dissolved immediately. The Committee on Privileges and Immunities be urgently constituted in accordance with the standing orders, and the matter be referred to the Committee for full and proper investigation and for subsequent action. And Parliament formally reaffirms its commitment to procedural fairness to avoid setting a precedent that undermines the process. You know Parliament in and out very well. Are the demands grounded as far as he is concerned?
Well, first, there is a route in Parliament for how a decision of Parliament can be rescinded. If Mr. Speaker has made a declaration and you disagree with it, you come by way of a substantive motion, the process will take place, or you use other legal routes on that. Second, we know that there exists not a Privileges and Immunities Committee of Parliament yet, right? And 1 month down the line from the establishment of this Parliament, there are many other committees that do not exist, including some of the committees that by the nature of our work, we need to be engaging,
right.
That specific committees which we need to be engaging with have not been set up yet. I expect that they'll be interested in the setting up of all of the structures in Parliament to facilitate citizens' engagement and facilitate the process of Parliament taking its course. But like I said from the very beginning, in all of this, what I regret the most is that when they speak about these matters as members of Parliament from either side, it appears that the public spectacle that they showed, the embarrassment on TV that we saw, seemed to be the least of their worries.
Right.
And the thing that worries them the most is about what is happening to their individual members or collectively as members of Parliament. And I think that is very embarrassing. We have actually heard some members of Parliament say that Mr. Speaker is behaving like a secondary school headmaster who is doling out suspensions and punishment to secondary school students. Unfortunately, when a group of people who are not secondary school students decide to behave like secondary school students, or even worse than secondary school students, sometimes you invite these things upon yourselves. And so for me, I get very scandalized when I hear that members of Parliament are looking at all of the issues that has gotten to do with them as individual members of Parliament, rather than the collective harm that they have done to the reputation of our Parliament and to all of us as people who they are representing in there. And I am more interested in that than, the other aspects.
Right. So let's leave it here. Wednesday is not far. We'll get to understand whether there will be full participation by those who have been invited to provide evidence before this committee. Already the NPP minority and the NPP as a political party, They say that they don't respect the Speaker's action, but fell short in telling us whether their members who have been suspended will take their seats in the chamber tomorrow. We'll wait to see how all of this will unfold. But I'd like to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. This is The Pulse here on Joy News. We'll take a short break and return. When we return, we'll talk about the environment. We'll talk about why our sports stadium is becoming a no-go area, because you go there today and may not return. We'll hear from the experts. Stay right there. This is The Pulse, of course, with me, Elton Brobe. And remember, we've got a conversation with the Sports Minister, Kofi Adam, and of course, Herbert Mensah, about that incident that led to the death of a soccer fan at Insuatre in the Bono region. We'll have that for you pretty shortly. But the Environmental Protection Authority has moved to halt mining operations along the tributaries of the Offin River at Pasoro in the Ashanti region. The APA has observed most of the illegal miners have failed to halt activities near river bodies, which is a part of efforts to reclaim river bodies affected by illegal mining. Chief Executive Officer Professor Nanama Brown-Kluche reveals the EPA will ensure mining along river bodies are stopped to restore the sanctity of water bodies. Nanaya Ojima has more in this report.
The EPA issued a directive last month ordering the cessation of all mining activities within and along water bodies. It further indicated preparedness to seize and prosecute persons acting contrary to the directive. Checks by the EPA revealed persons perpetrating the illegality at Pasoro tributary of the Offin River continued to mine despite the order. Though the miners were absent at the time of the visit, 3 excavators and other equipment used in the mining operations were mounted at the site. According to experts, the pit is newly dug for the mining activities. CEO of the EPA, Professor Nana Ama Brown-Kluche, expressed disappointment at the spate of destruction.
When we came, we didn't find the miners on ground, but we have seen the level of destructions that has happened here. We've seen also not just the gold mine, there's also sand winning in this area. There's a lot at stake. So you can see the pit behind me. This pit, we need to reclaim the land. We need to rehabilitate the water. We looked at the water, the color of the water. You see a clear pollution of the water. We are here, we have seen it with our naked eyes for the first time. This is my first visit since I took office, and it's pathetic. I'll plead with the communities and their elders, the chiefs, to come in, step in this.
Continuous mining in the river bodies has resulted in the destruction of some water bodies in the country. To the EPA, restoration of the river bodies remain a priority.
So our first focus has been on the water bodies, because it is pathetic. We can't do without water. If our river bodies are all getting polluted and taps are not having water running through them, it's an emergency we need to tackle immediately. So that is where we started from.
Meanwhile, the tributary of the Offin River is also affected by illegal sand winning. Huge acres of land are destroyed by the winners. Professor Kluche reviewed the area will come under regulation.
EPA still regulates the sand winning or sand mining activities. So we just need to ensure that the miners of the sand have the right permit to do what they do. It is EPA's mandate to regulate that as well. Of course, they also go through the Minerals Commission for some licenses and access and all of that. We also want to plead with all the other agencies that are involved in such mining activities, providing the licenses and regulation to also up their game.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
So still on this matter, concerned citizens of Atiwa Landscape are making an urgent appeal to President John Mahama to repeal LI 2462, a regulation that they say undermines the integrity of Ghana's few remaining fragile forest reserves. They are also renewing their call for the Atiwa Rainforest Reserve to be upgraded to a national park, warning that unchecked mining activities threatens critical water sources, rich biodiversity, and ultimately human well-being. In a statement that came through today to my Global Wetlands Day, observed under the theme Protecting Wetlands for Our Common Future, they stressed the urgent need for decisive action. Let me bring you the full details of that statement. That is what you have there as we mark the International Wetlands Day, and this is coming from the Atiwa. As we mark the day, they are asking the need to safeguard the Atiwa Rainforest Reserve. They commend the Paramount Chief of Achim Oboko Traditional Council for taking a bold stance by ordering all miners to cease operations along the Brim River by February 28th. So that deadline has elapsed. However, it's yet to come actually. However, the pollution of Densu and Ayensu remains unaddressed, and they call for decisive action to ensure protection. And I'll run down to the bottom of it. They want President Mahama to repeal LI 2462 that grants mining in forest reserves as part of activities marking this very important day. So this is what is happening. So let me bring in the Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental Protection Authority, Professor Kluche, and delighted to say that she's joined us via Zoom. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Right. So, I mean, I heard you last year when we had that roundtable discussion on this very subject, and you are virtually walking the talk now. So you've been on the field. You witnessed the scale of destruction. How different will the aftermath of your visit be, knowing very well this wouldn't be the first time state officials have been on the field?
Thank you very much. I think I have had to answer this question several times from the media. How differently are we going to do things, knowing that the fight has been on over the years and we virtually do not see progress or probably more distractions. We are going to work hard to do our bit. Mainly, we need to engage communities. Community members must understand the dangers these mining are posing on them. Those who allow the mining activities to happen in their communities must understand the dangers. The elders in the communities must also understand the dangers. So we need to do public education, and we're going to intensify this public education a lot, especially in the communities with the mining. We need to work on the water bodies that have been polluted. So EPA will be coming down to the water or the river bodies that are already polluted to rehabilitate the silt and then rehabilitate the water to get it back to its original state. Once we are there working, we don't expect people to be also in the water to continue to mine. Since the release last week, we have received several complaints from people in different communities telling us what is happening in there. And it looks like our security agencies are not also on the ground. So the EPA is appealing to all institutions that are responsible to support this kind of protection of the environment, to help with the regulation, to make sure that the right things are done in all areas. We are appealing that they should come in to join us in this work. We know the Minerals Commission. We know the security agencies are also supposed to be here. We know the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources are also supposed to be given permits for entry and all of that. So we appeal that together we need to go on this fight. So there are a lot of things we are going to do. In a long term, which of course we are going to start almost immediately, is this education. Every Ghanaian must value the environment. So we're planning education model to go on learning process that will help every Ghanaian understand the value of the environment so that we respect the environment. We cannot live without the environment. We have the environment, that's why we are living. So for our very existence, we need the environment. The air we breathe, as I always say, is from the environment. The water we drink and then the food we eat. These are the basic needs for survival. And if we continue to destroy the environment, we lack these things or we get them polluted and it affects our life. This education will have to go down to the people. When we were on site at Ofinso, engaged a few young men who came to meet us there because they saw that we were in our vehicles going to the site from the communities. We engaged them. They said, yes, they are used to do the mining. Why they have finished secondary school and they are not able to get employment or engage in that manner. So if they are able to get support or to go to school or get employment, they will not do this kind of business with the mining sector or the illegal mining engagement again. So I believe we need to also look at employment, and that is what we were going to encourage government. We want to believe that the 24-hour economy policy of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will be enrolled to take care of a lot of employment issues in the country so that it will minimize these illegal practices that we have.
So, Prof, I'm curious to know, I mean, the EPA has now moved from an agency to an authority. What power have you been given now? Such that we can have absolute faith that from this time going forward, we will see some meaningful results from the fight against illegal mining.
Yes, so in the last month of January, EPA turned to an authority. So we are to protect the environment, to regulate all activities that affect the environment, including agencies and companies. We are to provide oversight responsibilities over the environment and all matters that are relating to climate change. So once climate change comes in, we are talking also about every sector of the economy and everybody in the country. So EPA has an expanded mandate, and we have to educate Ghanaians also. So EPA, through the authority, has to get down to the district level on its expanded mandate to have environmental inspectors. So we need to touch on every district in the country as well, making sure that those who are in charge of waste management are doing their work well. Those who are in charge of everything, chemicals, pesticides, everything we do to touch the environment, EPA has a responsibility to regulate and to make sure that we are all doing the right things well in the country.
Final question before I let you go. LI 2462, will it go? I mean, mining in forest reserve is a major concern, and there is a demand from the chiefs of Atiwa that they want this LI repealed. There was some action on it before the expiration of the 8th Parliament. Now, with that expiration, it looks like we are back to square one. Is there a commitment to have it revoked?
Yeah, so let me explain a little bit for your listeners. So we know that the president of the country has powers to use the land anywhere it is in the country and allow entry of any land at all.
Right.
So a president can issue or allow entry into any parts, including protected lands like the forest areas. But then it is for EPA to say we agree or we don't agree to this area of land given out. Now, once the president, the then president, allowed entry into the forest, then it was necessary to now have a law to regulate the activities in the forest area. So the law is not to encourage mining in the forest area, it's to regulate. The law can be repealed if the president of the day says, I will not allow mining in the forest area. We can repeal the law because then there's no regulation in the forest area to do again.
What would be your recommendation towards this? If you are to recommend, what would be that recommendation?
My recommendation would be president boldly to say there should not be any mining in the forest area, and then there will not be any regulation because it's not happening. But currently, the challenge we have now is that entry has been allowed in the past, and we have big mining companies that are already in the forest. And it looks like we don't have an option but to regulate that. Without the law, we allow them to practice or to mine any way they want in the forest. So the president has the power to repeal the law to revoke the licenses that they have been given. Once that license is revoked, EPA license is also revoked automatically.
Right.
And I heard last week that the president said we should revoke most of those licenses. And I hope that the big mining companies with all their powers will have their licenses revoked as well, so that we will not have mining in the forest and there will not be any more law about regulating mining in the forest area.
And so that review, is it underway to determine who should have its license revoked as far as the EPA is concerned, those who are mining the forest reserves?
Yeah, so I had a phone call with the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources this afternoon, and he's setting up a committee which will be inaugurated tomorrow, and I'm sure it will come up in the media, to have extensive discussion on this. So EPA has a representative there, and other institutions that are concerned with issues of mining and environment will also be represented. Once that is set, they are ready to discuss this extensively to see the way we have to go as a people.
Right. Thank you so much, Professor Klucha. I know that we'll talk so much about this particular sector until we have a permanent solution to it. But now, I wish you the very best as we embark on this course across the country. Now, let's talk about football. I mean, I love football. I'm a soccer fan. I've been following football every weekend. My weekend is good when I watch so many football matches. Now, a former football administrator, Herbert Mensah, has blamed the Ghana Football Association for failing to prevent violent scenes that led to the tragic death of a fan following the Kumasi Asante Kotoko match at Nsuatre in the Bono region. He argues that the GFA's lack of stringent security measures and failure to curb rising tension in the league contributed to the chaos. He's calling for urgent reforms to prevent further incidents and ensure fan safety at the stadium. We'll hear from you shortly. Let me bring you a statement from the Ghana Football Association on the incident. And they say that Asante Kotoko and Nsuatre FC, they've been charged with breach of Article 2034-6D of the GFA Premier League regulations, and section, it's alleged that both clubs failed to control their players, resulting in a brawl, which constituted misconduct and brings the name of the game into disrepute. They have until Wednesday, February 5, 2025 to respond to the charges. And this is what the Ghana Football Association, meanwhile, officials report and video evidence regarding the incident surrounding the game are currently being reviewed, and additional charges will be preferred in due course. So this is what the Ghana Football Association put together after the game. And today, for example, there's been a lot of reaction to this matter. First was a condemnation that came from Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Nsuatre Football Club, followed after deleting an earlier post that called on the supporters to rejoice because they won the game. They should rejoice over beer. Now, Stephen Zando, who has been to the family house of the deceased, in this instance, Nana Poli, joins us for some reaction. So, we've got, he engaged the wife of the deceased. Let me bring that to you now before I bring in my other guest.
Frawati. No, me jidi se menene 3 days only uru akasa yansa na woko.
Menene na da sorry. Okram. Ide. Mi twe mi kun. Me jama se munyina menyame. Misi me de mi twa mi kuno metia. Mi twa mi kunu wakra me anopa. Mi kunu wakra me. Kani tu mi kunu kra me. Wokodru ye mi kunu fla me. Wakache mi so hema misi yes, wakache mi se mani ulem. Misi mo be ulem. Mate. 3 o'clock mi kunu bu na menti se mi kunu. Jesus. Jesus, ready who me mama wate. Ready who me mama. Ijo nyakopo who me mama. Ebenezer nyame me se hu me mobbo me de se me de ma se me gina ma nyame me de ma se me na makasi no de na meka de meka cho mu se me twa me kun no kwa na meka kire wo me twa me kun me te ya obefa me firi me ma me fie ene ekotena skore mampo me te me twa me kun yese me hye black o me de me se me hye wo mo se me hye me kun awu me de me hu se me kun awu me de me te me twa me kun me te me twa me kun
So the video came from the family house of the deceased, and the person you saw there is the wife of the deceased. So yet to come to terms with the fact that the husband went to Insuatre in the Bono region for a football match involving Kotoko and Insuatreman, and it is rather the body of the husband that was brought home. Now let's get to understand what really is going on. And Herbert Mensah is a former football administrator. He was in charge of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, and now president of Rugby Africa and board chair of the Executive Council of Global Rugby. And he joins me via Zoom. Mr. Mensah, good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse.
Nelson, good afternoon.
Right. So this afternoon, you spoke to this matter. The sound bite I heard from you on radio, on the various radio stations across the country, was to the effect that we will have no justification to explain the cause of death to the family of Nana Pauli. Why so?
I think that we all have responsibility, and when we are in sports management administration, we cannot have a situation where this sort of violence is allowed to occur. It would have been simmering before the match. It would have been simmering during the match. We heard the stories whilst the match was going on of missiles and stones and objects being thrown on. Clearly, there was a loss of control. Clearly, the circumstances leading up to, during the match were simply unacceptable. And the organizers of it have ultimately got to take responsibility for where they are.
In this case, the GFA?
Home team, yes. The teams obviously have a sense of responsibility, but the governing body cannot run away from its responsibility, and where there's a loss of life, sorry simply is not good enough.
I remember when you chaired Kumasi Asante Kotoko and the incident at between Kotoko and Okwa United where J.E. Sapon assaulted Ernst Medendorp. And then we had the May 9th disaster. But even that, from that time or up until now, we've recorded so many incidents at our various stadia. In fact, at the last Premier League season that ended, our sports desk recorded over 20 of such incidents. We don't appear to take so much serious view of this matter until there is fatality like we are witnessing now. It's become a national matter.
That's very true. And that is why it's also unacceptable. We've experienced it, as I said, when I ran Kotoko. If you went to Kaladan, you knew stones were going to be thrown at you. You go to Brekum, we call the battalion, the army unit from Sunyani to be there to support. And the number of times I had to leave the VIP and enter into the crowd because an away group's macho men and people have blocked the entrance for players to come in or are hurling objects and missiles. And yes, it then spoils the whole atmosphere. It brings about tension. It brings about so many things. But the point I made back then, and I make again today, is that those responsible for organizing the league, for organizing matches, they know, after all, we knew where you go, there was a danger to players. And if you have intel, which you should have, about what is going on, then you know whether a stadium is fit, you know what the mood is, and so many different things that you can then abandon a match, you can stop a match. I was surprised when I even heard that when the stones were being pelted and things were going on, that the match was not halted, abandoned. Was there adequate security there? There's so many things you can argue about. But Elton, we remember in Europe where there was crowd violence and there was misbehavior, a complete change of policy. The stewards in the stadiums who go there and they don't look at the match, they look outwards. The security detail before the match, managing transportation routes before. It's a whole exercise unto itself. It took a long time to curb violence in European stadiums and other stadiums. And May 9th was quite a long time ago. If you've experienced it and you've been involved where people have lost lives and you've seen the violence against, the responsibility must start and stop somewhere.
I'll come back to you to ask about the way forward, but perhaps let me bring in a man who may be coming to your doorstep to seek some advice on the way forward as far as managing sports, football, and other recreational activities are concerned. Let me bring in the sector minister, the Minister for Sports, Mr. Kofi Idi Adams. Mr. Adams, it's a pleasure to have you here on the pause.
And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I know you to be a very patient man, but I guess this afternoon your patience ran out in view of what happened at Nsuatri.
Well, seriously, you cannot have patience for such an act, especially when we've had quite a serious incident in the past. A repeat of any kind of assault should be condemned, and not at the time we are trying to bring back the love that we want Ghanaians to have for our sports. Acts such as this sends us way, way, way back, and we must not accept it. This is very condemnable. It must not be tolerated, and we must not in any way find any excuse whatsoever for what happened yesterday. No excuse whatsoever.
Is the ministry and by extension government taking any action beyond what the Ghana Football Association has done?
Well, first and foremost is for the police to investigate the criminal aspect, because these must have a criminal angle. This is not simply a game between two clubs that have resulted in this. There's a criminal part, and government will follow through to its logical conclusion. It doesn't matter who is involved. It will not matter who is involved. If you are found guilty that you instigated, you participated, the appropriate actions will be taken by government, because we are not going to tolerate any such act. This government, the administration of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, will not tolerate any violence whatsoever, any hooliganism at any of our stadia and any of our games. That is not what sport is about. And especially for us who have seen what hooliganism and violence in sports can do to a nation. The May 9th disaster, we should not be having this occur again. No. Of course, it is also a wake-up call to look at our security at stadia.
Right.
Stadia security. We will have to look at review security at stadia and see to improving security at our stadia. And also in emergency responses, the ambulance responses. Is it enough that you have a match of that nature and only one ambulance, or you need more than one to be strategically positioned and so on and so forth? Our emergency response situation in our stadia, we need to review all this and make sure that we bring it to standard.
Let me ask whether you are aware of them. I'm just getting information from our sister station in Kumasi, Insura FM, that the former Minister for Employment, former Member of Parliament for Sunyani West, Ignatius Bafo, has been put under arrest at the Bono Regional Police Headquarters for alleged conspiracy to commit murder as it relates to the incident yesterday. Has this come to your notice?
Well, this hasn't come to my notice, but like I was saying earlier, that it doesn't matter who you are. If the police, as part of their investigation, finds you that you are an important person to help their investigation, or you played any role, they will act. Nobody is going to stop the police from acting. It will not matter who you are, whether you are current or former. We will act and make sure that the appropriate action is taken.
So this coming weekend, if I should go to the Accra Sports Stadium, for example, I should see improved security measures?
Sure, you're not going to have the same thing that has been happening in the past. We will improve security. And especially, one thing from my reading is that anytime Kotoko is playing a match in that part of the country, there seems to be some unpleasant situations. Sometimes not on the pitch, sometimes after the game, on their way back, they encounter such incidents. And so what it means also is that some special arrangement will have to be made for Kotoko anytime they have to have a match in that area.
Right, and this thing didn't start today. But Mr. Adams, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We'll look to what government will do together with the GFA to bring some kind of safety.
But
yes.
But it's important that to extend our condolences to the bereaved family, Kotoko, as a football club or a sporting club, and all other persons who in one way or the other are affected by the incident of yesterday, the death of one of our young, very key supporter, that unless a Kotoko player is not in a team, the gentleman will travel anywhere, even if it's not Kotoko that is playing. If they have just one player in a team, in a national team, he will travel to witness and support the game. These are the levels of support that we expect to generate.
Right.
And it's not too good a news that will be happening at this time. To the injured, we wish them speedy recovery. And we do know that some intervention of a sort will come up.
Right. Minister Designate for Sports and Recreation, Kofi Adams, thank you so much. Let me bring in Mr. Herbert Mensah as we conclude on this matter. So, Mr. Mensah, you heard the sector minister. He's announced some measures that we should begin to see this coming weekend. But these are measures that should have been there years back when you started raising these matters about the fact that we were not safe as supporters and football players in playing in some of these venues.
Elton, you're correct. I think what we have to do is commend the minister because he is new in the job and he's addressing the issues clearly. And we have to take him at his word that no stone will be left unturned, that nobody will be left off the hook, that we need to have better security and intel apparatus to know what is going to happen. So this is correct. Ambulances and the response team, as you know, on May 9th, they all disappeared. There was no ambulances there. That was way back then. And there have been many incidents since that time. So I think that a lot of what he has said is that we have to stand by him. We have to look to see that they are done. It's not going to be an easy task because he will have to get the right people in place to do. It's not that people don't know what to do. It's the fact that they are not doing it. And we do hope that that will be put in place. And the one area that I think that he will hopefully extend that to will be to the FA as well itself.
But are we not going to come back to the same conversation 6 months from today? Because 6 months from today, we may witness another, murder, if you like, because clearly It's become a talk shop. The matter is in the public domain because somebody lost his or her life in the process, and then it becomes a national discourse. A week after, we move on with our lives. There's another incident a month later, and then we are back on the same discussion. And the people who promised to fix this or that now come back to give us reason why it wasn't done and the reason why it will be better tomorrow.
Well, I would hope not. You know, some of us have been championing this for 23, 25 years. We haven't stopped. We've made it a point. We carry out the remembrance on May 9th. We are very critical when these things occur. The people who are responsible in the system ultimately have to be held to account. So I hope that is not the case. Every year I do pray, and you are correct. We have people who come into office and to seat. It is not an easy job for Kurt, but that is the seat that you sit. It is not an easy job for those in the FA. That is the seat that they sit. And therefore the responsibility ultimately is with themselves. It is not easy to be a minister of state for sport. It is quite complex. Those of us who have been in the sporting field for the last 30 odd years, we kind of understand it deeply. It becomes one of who you appoint, not what you say. You can put the structures, but unless you have the competency and then you have that structure that makes sense, then it is that it will be something that will be difficult to achieve. So let's have a look and see who do they appoint in the given structures that they are. And he is absolutely right. I said it this morning that the respect goes to Nana Poli and his family and to all of those concerned. The intel is right as well. When you play Kumasi Asante Kotoko, for most clubs, it's like playing an FA Cup final in Europe. It is do or die, it's everything. And sometimes officials get carried away and they have to be punished if they were involved. But my heart goes out and it says again that the state of Ghana football, the imagery that is Ghana football, is yet at another low, and it's not good enough.
My final question before I let you go is Atreman, they have a statement out and they are proposing to the GFA that they be allowed to withdraw from the ongoing Premier League, the competition, because their continuous stay will be a disrespect to the bereaved. And of course, everybody who may have suffered one injury or the other last Sunday. Here's the case: the team is scheduled to play its next game against All Nations FC in the Asante region. And people are of the view that there may be some retaliation, which may come on them. They propose that they be allowed to withdraw. Is it the best way out of this situation?
They are there on the ground. Of course, if they withdraw, there will be sanctions involved, and the FA will have to determine what and how far. If they are to stay, then you have to take the words of the Honourable Minister in that security will be up for every single game. Look, we used to do it when we went to Brekum. we had soldiers at the park. You know, the park, I've not been to what happened yesterday, but it looks similar. This sort of functional grass with some kind of security netting. People are too close to the park. People can throw stones and missiles. We had that. We had little fire bombs and objects thrown in those days. So we had complete troops at the stadium, leading us to the match, leaving. And that is not the way it should be. But the safety of the players, the safety of the supporters is of paramount importance. It is the one thing that is critical in any sporting event.
All right, Mr. Mensah, thank you so much. Herbert Mensah is former football administrator, currently president of Rugby Africa and a member of the executive board of World Rugby. We've been talking about football and the matters over the weekend, Sunday to be precise. Now, this is the pause. We'll take a short break here. When we return, we'll talk about our community heroes before we wrap up the show. Well, that's our show for today. It's been exciting. Our first working day of the month of February. We pray for better times in this month and the days to come in the year 2025. But that's our show for today. Whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope is profitable. My name is Elton Gobi. Have a good evening and take care.